Welcome everybody to coaching today. I hope you read my email. We are talking about ways to get our listings from active to sold. So, all right, we're going to jump right into this. Welcome everybody. Glad you could join me this morning. This is the benefit of Zoom when we can't be physically together, but I have enjoyed being in the offices in the last few months. So it was good to see everyone in person as well. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's just take notes on this one. I'm going to be jumping all over the coaching manual, so no particular page to refer to this time. I'm breaking this down into 4 points, and kind of want to get a running start at this. So let's do a little rehearsal. Let's see how well we're doing. I'm going to put together a couple of questions here. So what do we get when problem meets solution? Go ahead and hit the chat or unmute. Tell me what we get when problem meets solution. We've been talking about this over the last...
Value.
Value. Thanks, Phil. Thank you. We get value. Another way to say that, sure, John, is results, but we get value. And if you're ever struggling with justifying commissions, just take a look in the mirror and ask yourself if you're describing problem as well as you could. The other way to look at that is villain and hero. It's very, this is what we see, the movie patterns, the plot patterns in movie is hero meets villain, and we get victory. And that's why we walk out feeling good, because we transcended the magnitude of the problem. So here is a quote for you on that if you want to take some notes. This will help your basic presentation skills. So let me just grab it. I wrote it down yesterday. Yeah, people don't understand the value of the solution until they understand the magnitude of the problem. Okay, so we don't understand the value of the solution until we understand the magnitude of the problem. And the reason I like to start off with this is because if we're going to be truthful about what we're up against and the magnitude of what we're up against in this market, interest rates have obviously truncated our demand, and people are sitting on the sidelines. And so we're just frankly selling less houses, aren't we? So days on the market is increasing. Our sellers are getting nervous and anxious. They're looking to you for answers. So what we need to understand truthfully is what the problems are that we can, we can address that. And when we do, we build value, and ultimately you, the hero, will have victory. Okay. So that means point number one. Okay. And yeah, I'm a broken record. This is definitely Tom Sawyer, which means it's the #1 hit played over and over again, and it's the factors. So we've been talking about the factors, but instead of going through those, because we have over and over and over again in these coaching sessions, I want to look at it differently. I want to ask you to tell me which one of the factors does the seller control. So go ahead and either unmute or put that in the chat. So again, the question is, which of the 8 factors does the seller control? So 8 of the factors, they control which ones? So let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay, John says price. Yep, they control condition. Price and condition, thanks, Bev. Mike says condition of the home. Right. So let's make a list here. Taking notes. Number 1, the seller controls the price. 2, they control the condition. I'd like to put another note there in case some of you are dealing with accessibility issues, like, lack of key box, or, there's a tenant in the home and it's making it very challenging. So accessibility, is something that we need to question on whether or not we control that. Another one that's kin to this is like, look, primarily they control price and condition. I'm going to give you another one too, but those are heavy, right? Those are very heavy. Accessibility, question mark. Are we good? Can we get to the property? Is easily shown. Number 4 in that group is, remember, they do authorize marketing. So I'd hate to think that any seller has not allowed us to do the kind of marketing that we would like to do. And if they are, then the magnitude of the problem becomes bigger. Okay, another one that they control, you might think about this a roundabout way, but they actually do control pieces of financing. not like the market. So, we clearly know the sellers do not control the market, supply, demand, immigration numbers, net immigration, job markets. No. Okay. So they do not control that. We understand that. None of us do. Okay. It just is the opportunity to have, clearly the market right now is the villain, right? They turned Darth Vader on us. They were Anakin Skywalker in 2021 and 2, and now it's Darth Vader. So, they control some of financing. In what way? Well, how does a seller control financing? What can the seller do in the category of financing? What do you think?
Seller finance, accepting seller finance, or
okay,
loan that's assumable, VA or FHA loan that's assumable potentially.
That's correct, Darren. So, look, if we don't have a balance on a loan, or if we got pure equity, they could consider some form of seller financing at rates that might be more favorable to a borrower. They can buy the rate down also, which is a big one. And we have been pounding on this one. Like, this is a necessity right now today. The reason why new construction is 3 times higher historically than it has been is because builders are already baking this in. They've been baking it in for a year now. So please have this discussion with your seller about having some concessions to rate buy down. I talked to someone yesterday about the seller had authorized $15,000 to either A, come off the price, or B, be a concession. The question was kind of posed like, how do we present that? That's the way the question came in. My take on that was simply put the concession in there. Obviously, if a buyer would prefer to have it off the price, hypothetically, if it's cash, they would just take it off the price, right? But if they prefer to, say refi later, or that's what they think is going to happen, then perhaps they don't want to spend the money on the rate buy down. There is simple math to this. You can have, look, Metro Mountain Mortgage will run these numbers for you quickly. You simply take the $15,000, see what the rate buy down will get you and how much it'll save per month versus what a $15,000 price reduction would be. And then how many months of payments do we need to, recoup the $15,000? So make sure you understand that equation, and you're going over that with the seller. And on your particular listing, you should know those numbers. So if it's not selling and we're coming with this idea of concession, make sure you have those numbers ready to go so you can see how that looks. So they've got something to really contemplate. Okay, so we've got the controllable factors: price, condition, financing, and accessibility, and authorizing marketing are all controlled by seller. I hope you wrote that down. So those are things that they can do. And there's things, of course, in the factors that we cannot control. But look, when I made 4 points today on the email, the 2 big takeaways here are understand the factors, because that's honesty and what they control. 2 is concessions in financing. So now let's move on to number 3. Okay, number 3. Track the market. So when we're looking at, so we're not selling, we need to understand, look, is just no one buying in this price range? And so let me give you 3 perspectives to look at. So when I say track the market, let's go price competition, location competition, and feature or amenity competition. So let's take number 1, price competition. In a very broad area, as broad as a buyer may search, the entire county kind of a thing, okay? Only look at it from a price standpoint. So if I were 750,000, I want to look at everything from 600 to maybe 900,000. I want to look at the entire county. I want to see who's selling. And if they did sell, why? The next one, I want to look at just pure location. So now I'm only looking at my neighborhood. And I want to say if they've sold, then I need to understand why. Finally, if I had something like a workshop or a main floor master, or I was a 5-bedroom, or if I had a wraparound deck. I mean, whatever the feature amenity that's unique to the property, I'm now looking at it through those lenses. Like if I'm the only one with a pool. Okay, so I'd say, well, there's only 18 properties on the market with a pool. Where do I stand relative to price? If we look at those three perspectives as we track the market, we're going to get data that's going to light our path. And look, okay, so this is probably the time where I say what we too often do too easily. We jump to price too quickly. Yes, properties should be priced right. Of course they should. Here's the difference, though. The amateur agent just says, well, you're priced too high. And a Brookshire agent is going to understand why we need the price reduction. You see what I mean? We're going to be able to explain the reason we need the price adjustment, not just we need a price adjustment. Well, you're priced too high. Clearly, you're priced too high. Explain to me how you know that. And I mean, this is their equity, you know, and I think we can kind of get caught. I was thinking about this morning. The model of Berkshire Hathaway is to net our clients the highest possible net. So we tend to try to get out ahead of comps. So if comps were, say, 725, somehow we end up being priced in many ways at 750. You know, because we want to get them the most, right? So I know every case is different. Overpricing has its problems too, doesn't it? Because if we increase those days on market for too long, then that starts to hurt the value of the listing, because simply people say, why hasn't it sold? Right? Okay, so let's review the three again. What does the seller control in factors? Price, condition, accessibility, authorized marketing. Number 2, financing concessions. The other things they can do. Number 3, we track the market from 3 perspectives: price, competition, location competition, feature and amenity competition. Okay, the fourth one. The fourth one really is the exhaustive list of everything you could possibly do to market the property. So if you're not in the habit of using the listing marketing checklist, then I would suggest that you kind of take a look at that. This is a great way to take inventory of what you have done and what you should be doing, and then get your plan in place. So I would like to highlight one kind of as a kitchen cleaning item. Yesterday on the Wasatch Front Zoom sales meeting, we didn't have any featured listings. And maybe there was a mixed message here along the way. I think leadership, myself, and our team could probably take some ownership of this. Our intent was not to get rid of featured listings at all. That was not our intent. So so here's the plan. A listing that has been new to the market from Monday to Friday at 3 will be emailed out to the entire Brookshire network come Monday morning. Inside of that new listing group that was Monday to Friday at 3, we would like you, of course, to feature your listing on Sales Meeting if you feel that it's a listing that should be featured. Now, we all know that some don't need to be featured per se. Others really do. The more unique, the more special, maybe the higher priced properties, perhaps cookie cutter listings, maybe not so much, but that's completely and totally 100% up to you. Okay, we are never going to say no to featuring a listing. If it's a great price point and it's a first-time home buyer home and it's fantastic, it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,400 square feet, then and hey, present that, right? Present it, and feature that listing. Okay, so that's going to be a little twist on the Wasatch Front Zoom sales meetings. We'd like to encourage the feature presentation. The Wasatch Back gets this done pretty well. Admittedly, the markets are very, very different. Wasatch Back average sales point right now is 1.7 million. There's a lot of very unique properties in the Wasatch Back. So I always find it very interesting when an agent in the Wasatch back will start off and say, the architect of this home was, you know, like that. We don't hear that very often in the Wasatch front, do we? Where we call out who the architect was. So yeah, very different markets. But please, I encourage you to please feature your listings when it comes up. Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking over the comments, guys. Hey, well, just a thought. Hey, John Eborn, can you unmute and have a conversation with me for a second? You and I had a discussion yesterday. Are you in a place to talk?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to open a house for a inspector, so I'm in my car. But yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so why don't we just bring in everybody on this conversation we had about how you go about presenting the factors in a listing presentation. I thought your order of how you organize them was spot on. Do you want to just describe that to everybody?
Yeah, so thanks, Will. So the comment we were having yesterday about those factors and the relevancy of all of them is important, and we talk about those in the listing presentation. But I had mentioned to Will, one thing that I do in my listing presentation to set up price reductions if we need them is to set the price reduction in play for after I do everything else that I'm supposed to do. So once we are clear that the home has been marketed properly, once we rule out the economic factors, once we rule out the access to financing factors, the condition, location, anything else that we can handle, I talk about price as the last resort on that. So essentially my listing presentation format is around solving all those other issues or solving for those other issues, or at least bringing them into the light. And then talking about price as the final issue that's in the seller's control. And once we've done everything we're supposed to do, then the only answer left is price, as opposed to a lot of agents that I'm battling with out there. Price is the first line of defense. And the comment I make to clients is, well, of course, you could lower the price and solve everybody's problem. Our job is to try and get you the most amount of money possible in the right time frame. And if you wanted to drop it 30%, of course, it would sell. But we don't know if it was marketed properly. We don't know if it had as many eyeballs on it as possible. We don't know if we were strategic in our pricing process regarding financing or the price bracketing. So once we solve those things, then at that point, I feel justified and they feel expectant toward me going back and saying X, Y, and Z is, we've solved for X, Y, and Z. The market's now telling us that it's rejecting our price and it's time to make a move. And it flows better and it feels better. It's not an excuse. They know that I've done everything I can do and it is what it is. It's time to meet the market at the price. Is that read into what you and I were talking about yesterday?
Yeah, I think that. Thank you so much, John. I thought that was I mean, inadvertently, the way that it's been put together is we've kind of put these as weighted on the most important factors at the top, potentially. I guess you can make arguments, right? But that's inadvertently the way they're organized. But the way to present them is better to put price at the end, because we're addressing all these issues first. This is very much in line with hero and villain. Okay, once you understand complexity and magnitude of problem, you can appreciate the hero in the story, which is why when we go to the movie, we first figure out in the story that the villain just looks unbeatable. Then we have appreciation for the hero. Okay, so I think it's also being very protective of the equity that the seller has. It's their money. Our job is to net the most. So our heart is there. Our commitment is there. This is about them, not us. And so when it comes to price, yeah, John's right. I mean, if we lowered it 30%, then it's going to fly off the shelf, right? That's not our job. Our job is to net them the most, even with the payment of commissions. So I like that. So I kind of wanted to ask the group, maybe I know the answer, but I'm thinking to redo the factors in a presentation format. It's very clean, very Brookshire, and reorganize them. Would you use that in a presentation if we redid that? So it was more like listing presentation flavor. Your chance to vote. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Leah, John, Nisha. Thank you. Rena, thanks. Tricia, thanks. Okay. And Mike, thank you. Okay. I think, let me get you a draft of that. Well, I'll get a draft, I think, today and see if we can, I mean, clearly there's some things on this page that it's done speaking to you, and now we need to speak to the client. And maybe I'll use Chat GPT to help me. You know, I think before this week is over, I'm going to go on there and have Chat GPT write a love song for my wife. And then I'll be like, hey, honey, you know, look what I came up with. and I'll just put some chords to it. John, you and I both know that we only need 4 chords. So there we go.
3 chords in the truth. 3 chords in the truth. That's it.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, I think Peter, to your question, do you what do you mean by that? Do you want to unmute and just tell me like what do you
Well,
talk?
I just want a full breakdown of everything. I know how we've gone over price, location, amenities, condition, marketing, and financing, but if we're going to back pricing up to the end,
Yeah.
I just want an explanation of that again, a breakdown of everything as far as, you know, because I agree, putting all that in front of price, because we all tend to lean towards price at some point in time. Obviously, it's a better breakdown if we can give, you know, explain X, Y, and Z, and then get to price, or let the seller get to that assumption. So I just like a better breakdown of that. So
Yeah. You know, you spawned a thought, Peter. I guess there's no reason why we couldn't have the presentation weighted to the factors that are most important. But when you go to present them, you go to price last. I mean, you certainly could start off with, you know, the factors that you want to address first. Like particularly, I may start with amenities when I think about the only home that has, say, a pool. You know, that's a very unique amenity. Or if it had access to horse trails, biking trails, or if it's on the golf course, you know, those are very unique amenities. So I may start there and talk about our competition with inside that group. Homes with, you know, equestrian facilities. Okay, well, there's only 18. Or homes with a pool. Well, there's 26. You know, whatever there is. So I may start there. I guess what I'm saying is I would trust your judgment just to understand it and then organize them the way you think. What I liked about what John was saying is that it's so easy just to go to price every time, you know, and our job is to net the most. So I really like that. I'm happy to go through them from a presentation standpoint to a client. Why don't we just do that next week after I get the presentation done, if you like that idea? Does that sound good? That sounds good. Okay, great. Okay. All right. I wanted to take a segment. I liked yesterday, Kevin Larson. I just liked having kind of some open discussion. So any topic, any question you want to pose, or any thing you want to chat out? Does anyone have something you want the group to kind of discuss?
Hey, Will, I wanted to ask a question of the group and just see, is there anybody that's really utilizing and having success with Chalk Digital post the 1 week that they give us? And if so, what are the things you're doing to move the needle on that?
Okay, so Chalk Digital. This is a automatic complimentary. We get 7 days of campaign. I'm just looking at the definition to make sure everybody's, and I understand it. This is in Resource Center, and we get 7 days with Chalk Digital. Anyone have any comments on Chalk Digital?
I do, Will.
Yeah. Hi,
That
Sandy.
It's actually a tool that I've utilized. Hi. I've utilized that basically since I first started and I knew about it. I went on to the resource center and got it set up. I think if I remember right, we get 2 days free. And then if we want to do any additional days on top of that, we cover that as the agent ourselves. But I kind of played around with doing 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And interesting enough, my husband is one that made the comment that when I switched it to 3 days a week, he was like, "You post a lot on social media." And I was like, "Oh, I do." And so he made me realize that it was something like a lot of my people on social media were watching and seeing me consistently do with no effort on my part. But I do feel like when I kicked it to 3 week for at least my sphere, it seemed overwhelmingly too much versus 2 days a week. And I kind of spaced it between Tuesday and Thursday, I believe. And then obviously I do other kinds of social media posting throughout the week. But I have loved having that be a peace of mind that, it's consistent. I don't have to think about it. If I want to be picky on what kind of information is being posted at the time, you just go ahead of time and select the kind of information you want to post, because you can go through and select, if it's about lifestyle, if it's about stats, or I can't remember what, but I've loved it.
Nice. So it seems like your advice would be to go twice a week then. Is that right?
I would definitely say yes if you are already avidly doing other forms of social media posting for your business. I would do it twice a week.
Okay.
Hey, I might be behind the curve on this a minute because I haven't had to do any general posting for me, but I'm what I was talking about is the listing promotion posting, where I believe what Will was saying is correct, where it gives us a free week of promotion on a listing, lets us customize what that ad looks like, and it gives us really great reporting. And that reporting has been really handy and visually powerful for my clients, but I'm not seeing it posted anywhere. So I don't know if what you're talking about, Chalk Digital posting for you, is on your own Facebook page, or if it's different than what I'm trying to do with it. So obviously I'm a little lost.
Hey, Sandy, is that maybe we're talking about two different kinds of posting? There's a listing promotion that will take our listing and have that boosted for 7 days versus another kind of post that you've put together. Is that right?
Yeah. And I must have misunderstood too, because I have used the 1 week free once you get a new listing, and I have seen it pop up on my Facebook every once in a while when I have those run, because it targets I think the targeting, how it works is it targets the area around the house. So your client is likely to see it along with, the surrounding areas. But I can definitely see how he was saying that he's having a hard time seeing it actually posted on social media, because it hasn't been a consistent, I see it every time. And I have seen other agents pop up occasionally too, where it's their promoted ad for the week. So yeah, I would be interested to see, how those are actually being distributed, and who's seeing them when we have that free weekly ad for new listings.
Okay. While we were chatting, I just reached out to Jamie. If she's available, I'll have her jump on real quick, but stay tuned on that. But I appreciate that. Anyone have anything else? So we got Chalk Digital. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Don't be shy. I mean, as a group, we're not really shy people. Aren't we typically an extroverted group of people?
Hey, Will.
Yes. Hi,
Hey,
Jill.
hi. So in Real Scout, you can do a market analysis around your subject property. So if you've got a listing that is sitting on the market and you're wanting your client to get weekly updates on what the neighborhood and the area is doing as far as sold, new pricing, under contracts, and all of that, you can send an alert to your client with all of that information just so that they can clearly see if their home is still sitting on the market. Why? Because it's showing all the market in the area, how long homes have been on the market and all that. So that's a good option.
All right. So we set our client up with a like kind search. They become like a pretend buyer, and then they get notified of anything that is like that in the market. Is that right?
Well, what it does is if you go into Real Scout, it's called the marketing analysis alert. And you put your client on that alert and you draw a map around their property that's currently listed. And you can have it sent to them bi-weekly, weekly, however often you want to, but it's just showing them what their neighborhood is doing on a weekly basis.
Got it. So new listing, they get alert. If it goes under contract, they get an alert. If it's sold, they get an alert.
No, only once a week, however you set it up, but it will show you all of that in one email, the analysis of all of those things all in one email.
Got it. Okay. Once a week, all in an email.
Yep.
I love it. I mean, anyone have a listing on the market for months now, you know how hard it is to have those communications happen, right? And sometimes they feel awkward because we don't have great news for them. You know, they want to know how the showings went, and we're calling to say, well, they didn't come back, you know. So I know how that can be challenging. So this is a great way to have that consistent communication. I think that's a great one, Jill. Thank you for bringing that one up. I'm going to take a look at that this afternoon. Could you walk me through that a little bit?
I can. I have my team meeting now, so it would have to be brief, short, and sweet.
Okay, good. I like it.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I'm sure Jill would. I'm going to volunteer Jill for any of you who need help with stuff like that. Jill is fantastic with our toolbox of tools. So
I have another Real Scout plug.
Yeah. Yep.
You can also check out other agents who might have clients who are interested in your product, and you can just send them an email and reach out and just say, hey, whatever you want to share about it that's could pique their interest. And I've had agents reach out to me as well through Real Scout.
Yeah, it's the reverse prospecting option. So when you have a listing, there's the option there that you have reverse prospecting, where it shows all the agents that have buyers that are looking currently in a search for a property just like yours. So you're able to reach out to those agents and share your listing with them. So it's a unique tool that's great for that.
Nice. Okay, anybody else? We'll go maybe a couple more minutes with just an open forum, and then I've got some, we'll call them closing remarks. Anybody? No? All right, well, if you think of something, let me know. I've just got a couple of perspectives. This is probably clear mindset coaching for all of us. Write this quote down. I really like this. Change your expectation for appreciation, and the world will.
I don't understand.
Oh, Siri. You know, they're always listening. Okay, I'll say it again. Change your expectation for appreciation, and the world will change instantly. So I know it's easy to get caught up with interest rates. It's difficult. It's challenging. It's not as good as it was. But where's the appreciation perspective in all of this? Like, what can we be grateful for given our current, business environment and conditions? I hope that you see many, many things to be grateful for and appreciate that you have clients that still support you. Perhaps the uphill battle builds more value. The magnitude of the problem is how we get value and solution. So the harder it is, the more you're needed. If it's too easy, then everybody would do it. We understand that. But what about the model of Berkshire Hathaway? Look, I want to applaud you guys. It's every day I talk to agents that, are in this company and outside this company. And I'm, I understand that there's really two mindsets. You're either going to be at Berkshire Hathaway, pay more money and offer more to your client because you want to be the best at what you do. And potentially this is probably a career issue. This is like, I look at real estate as a career. Or there are agents who just want to be cheaper, provide less, and it's probably something they do on the side. If you ever want to know like whether you're right in choosing where you are, I think, frankly, we all need to stop looking at it like what's in it for us. This is very much this quote. If I really do appreciate my client's trust in me, then I owe it to them to give them everything I possibly can give them as a resource. That's why I owe it to them. I mean, they're trusting you to bring the resources, right? So it's just so easy in so many markets to race to being cheaper, and cheaper is just cheaper. So talked to an agent yesterday, and you know what they complain about? So they're on 100% split. Okay. They pay $750 a transaction. You know what they complain about every single day? All the tools they don't have and the help they don't have every day. How come we don't have this? Why don't we have that? Gosh, I went to my broker and said, we should really do this, or we should really do that. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You're either going to be better or you're going to be cheaper. And your client, I know, appreciates you being better. I thought that was an interesting, another interesting conversation. Angie and I were talking about it yesterday. So, and I think Sandy and I were talking about it as well. Okay, one more thought. And then, hey, did you guys like my dad joke yesterday? My new favorite dad joke. You didn't like it, John? You didn't like it? Oh, man. John's like, no, it was a horrible dad joke. All right, let's take a vote on this one. It was my favorite one right now is, I was going to tell you a time travel joke, but you didn't like it. That's not funny. Oh, anyway, that's all I got for dad jokes. Well, hey, you guys, thanks for joining me today on coaching.
Bev's got a question.
Oh, he does? Oh, yeah? Bev?
Hi, Will.
Hey, Bev, how are you?
Good. Thanks for your class this morning.
Sure.
So I would be interested in knowing out of the group here if how successful the 3-2-1 buy down has been, if they're taking advantage of it, if they're using it. One property specifically that I have listed, I think is so rate sensitive, and it's just been so difficult to ask for those price reductions. And at this point, I don't want to ask for another one. I do want to try to solve it differently because I just feel like interest rates are not always the best reason to reduce your price. So yeah. I'm wondering if anyone in the price range that our properties are in, buy downs are super expensive. I mean, we can talk about a seller having to spend somewhere between $60 and maybe over $100,000 to participate in one of those programs. So it isn't a drop in the bucket.
Look, I'd love to hear everyone's thought on this. Let me get a running start at it. My first thought is to have the numbers run by, so we know exactly what the numbers are for that particular property.
I did,
Yeah.
and I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a lot. And, I have thought of strategies of maybe increasing the price to help cover that, but then of course it has to appraise. And we've actually had an appraisal on the properties. So I have a good idea, sort of where that sits. But yeah. I think I'm sure there are many of us out there that are so frustrated by the lack of market activity because we have these buyers sitting on the sideline, and I don't blame them. I mean, I personally would not want to transition from a 3%, 2.5%, 4% loan into something that's so much higher.
Yeah.
And just knock those buyers out of the market and sideline them.
Yeah. Look, we can't, there's a group of people that just aren't going to buy right now. And we're just gonna have to be okay with that. I mean, again, that's out of our control. The issue of affordability is the sales price and the interest rate versus their income and their ability to qualify on all of their debt. So what we do is we do the best we can to address the affordability issue. I would recommend, instead of a price reduction, I'd recommend a concession. I'd recommend a lender concession. The numbers right now are still better than lowering the price. And because what's our alternative? If we do need to get it sold in the next 90 days, what's our alternative? Lower the price? Well, lowering the price won't be as effective as a rate buy down on affordability, if that's the challenge. I mean, we can go ahead and lower it, sure. And that may bring a cash buyer, say, hey, there's a great value here. But typically, the reason why the builders are winning here is because they already have those baked in to their sales prices. And since the quote I just gave was changing expectation for appreciation, I think we're just going to have to acknowledge that days on market, it's going to be much longer. It's the new world we're in. We're not going to change market conditions or the economy or political policy that has been having an impact on home buyers. We're not going to be able to do that. But what we do know is that we can do something with the concession and the rate buy down, and just taking the better path is what I would suggest. Get the numbers. It's their decision. It's a business decision for them. So what would you prefer to do? Here are the two choices. Here's what the numbers look like. If we lower it by this amount, okay, this is what it will do to a potential payment at current rate. If we take the 3-2-1 buy down and we pay for that, this is what it would do for affordability. Let's compare the difference and then let's just make the decision. And they're going to appreciate you, Bev, and all of us taking the time in a moment where they're nervous, they're stressed, they're uncertain, they have fear, and we should all be calming influences, but be honest about the magnitude of the villain, right? We have to be honest about what we're up against, and we're just not going to fix a 7% rate. I mean, we're just not going to fix that. It is what it is. And we're going to have to cope with it. And so here are our choices, and which one we think is best is up to them. Rachel, I would put it in the remarks.
So do you just say offering a 2-1 rate buy down? You think the consumer is understanding that at this point, or do you need to say a percentage of closing costs, or? Well,
so the don't do just hit my mind. We can't quote rates in those remarks, guys. So just say the seller is participating in a rate buy down and a concession amount. So hopefully the buyer's agent can do the math and take that along and say, look, the call I took yesterday was 15,000. We take 15,000. That's towards the rate buy down. Now, granted, this was what was the sales price? Like 375, 385, something like that. So, Bev's talking about a price point much higher. but I would put that in the remarks. Rach, is that what you would do?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is if I have a project right now where we are offering rate buy downs, but I've been asking the lender and marketing and other people, like, how should I advertise this? And I'm not getting any straight answers, and I need to get it out to the public. And I want to know if it's that I use a percentage reduction, like, 2% towards your purchase price and closing costs, or is just say specifically a 2-1 rate buy down.
Think the consumer would understand rate buy down.
Buy down. Okay.
I think they would know what that, I mean, they may not know specifically what they get and how to calculate the payment, but having a rate buy down in their minds right now, oh my gosh, 7%, right? But they're offering a rate buy down. Well, what is
that? Might be the best way to communicate with them is, we're going to buy down your interest rate, so come talk to us.
That's right. It opens the conversation and then we go from there. Yep.
Hey, I was going to mention also, one of the things that I've come across is if we are offering a percentage or a dollar amount towards a buy down, and it doesn't say or closing costs, prepaids, blah, 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 all that money has to be spent towards the buy down. It can't be split up. So if you're going to offer that, or if someone's wanting that, it needs to be offered for both, unless it's going to be specifically for buy down only. Because if they're not going to need to spend, $20,000 for the whole entire amount, that money can't go towards closing costs on top of that.
Okay. So Jill, thanks for bringing that up. I think that's the step where the buyer's agent then takes this concession and now needs to put it in the contract. You know, how is that going to look? And that needs to have a conversation with their lender. How, if we're going to divide it, how does it look? Can we not divide it? All going here? Where is it going? Tell me how we want to construct this. And I think that's a really good point, Jill. So
it should say, if they're going to offer it towards concessions or buy down, either or, it needs to say that in the remarks.
Well, remember that the MLS is an invitation for an offer. It's not the offer. So if we said $15,000 to rate buy down, and then the buyer agent decides that that's all going to be just closing costs, and they're not going to address it, then the addendum would say, $15,000 to be paid towards buyer's closing costs. If I were to point to something, I would point to the FHA VA loan addendum that has language that says how that's broken out. Frankly, says it could be used for either one, as determined by the buyer. So buyer determines they can use it for closing costs or rate buy down. And I like that language there. So that's probably, like, if you guys called me and said, well, how do I write it? And to Jill's point, what's the lender, what's the strategy here? Like, how much is going where if we're dividing these? Okay, now let's go look at this language. And do we need to do customized language? Because if it's conventional, what are we doing there? I like clarity in contract, obviously. So I'm trying to think if there was another tip on this, but that's where my mind goes, is the language that's in the FHA addendum.
Yeah, I would also suggest people like to know the dollar amount more than a percentage of what's going towards the buy down. So I would be finding out, what exactly that amount would be to your client as an exact number rather than a percentage. People just think it's more to see that more than a percentage.
Totally agree. Yeah, please tell me we're not putting a percentage in an addendum.
We're doing percentages in addenda. That's what the lender told us to do, because we've got 30 units that we need to sell. They're in different price ranges, from 260 to 355. So they want 2.15% in closing costs paid by the seller, but they want me to market a 2-1 buy down. So I'm trying to understand. I think the addenda is separate from the marketing, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
The paragraph
But
5.
it's 2.15% of the purchase price towards closing costs, not anything to do with rates, if that makes sense.
Okay. So when this comes down to how we're going to write it out, I'm looking at 5.1 FHA loan addendum. Seller shall contribute at settlement an amount towards payment of loan discount points and other loan closing related costs, loan costs. The amount of the seller's contribution shall be a dollar amount. Such contribution shall be first applied to loan costs and will not permit buyer to, let's see, we don't need that last sentence about FHA VA if we're conventional. And then any other remaining shall be allocated at buyer's discretion towards remaining loan costs. Seller shall have no further obligation towards loan costs. So if the amount of the seller's contribution exceeds the amount of the actual loan costs, then these excess shall be returned to, who do you think?
Seller.
Seller. And that may not be the way that we want to write that. So we're going to, this is the structure of the language in 5.1 on how we write it out. And then I think we need to customize that as per the instructions of the lender and the borrower. So Rach, I'm thinking, the percentage is just going to get translated into a dollar amount when we get to contract. Does that make sense to you? Or is that what you've been doing or what you plan to do? Sorry.
This is brand new. I'm trying to figure it out. We've been, it's just a complicated complex and we're trying to get it sold. The lender is requiring, anyway, they told us to put in 2.15% of purchase price. And then I thought I was doing it right. So I don't know if we want to go to each one having to do all the math. I guess we could, if we want to do a dollar amount.
I guess, one quick observation about 2.1% of sales price is loan costs are based on loan amount. And if you get someone with a large down, that's going to change. I mean, they'd get more of a concession. Everyone can get the same amount. So when you do 2.1 of sales price, the dollar amount. So if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm already going to do that math and go, I get X amount of dollars. Let's say I get like 20 grand or whatever. I get 10 grand. Okay. So, but my client's putting down, say 50%, 40%, 30%. So my loan amount is a lot less. When you go to calculate discount points on rate, it's on loan amount, not sales price. We all know that. So in a sense, I've got more money than the person relative to my loan amount than the person who put, say, 5% down to buy one of these units. So I would certainly, as a buyer agent, seize the moment and get the amount of the sales price. But as far as my loan is concerned, I get more bang for my buck the more I put down on that concession. So, wow, I love it when we talk contracts and legal language on coaching.
Yeah, and you have a closing cost addendum too, which has language like that too. That's not just like the FHA one.
Yes. Yes. I just like that language that says subject or to be allocated at buyer's discretion. Yeah, you're right. Seller's contribution to closing costs, sellers contribute X amount, buyer's discretion, rate reduction, mortgage rate. It's all listed out. Closing costs, prepaids can be allocated there. Any unused portion of the sellers at buyer's option may be reduced the purchase price. So FHA says seller, closing costs says reduction on purchase price. Good. Good discussion. I mean, I think we got to own these topics of concessions right now. We really need to know it forwards, backwards, sideways, so we can give, proper instruction to our seller. Are those FHA, Rach?
No, it's a new project. And so it doesn't qualify for FHA until all the buildings are complete.
Okay.
So that's part of our struggle.
Okay.
And we haven't sold or put under contract 50% of the product. It's a condominium complex, so we're having troubles qualifying for lending. So right now we're trying to entice more buyers by buying down rates in order to get the numbers we need.
Okay. I don't know why my mind went to FHA when we were talking about this projects, but that's why I went to that addendum. But yeah, thanks for the pivot there. And to John's point, it is addressed in the closing cost addendum that prepays are part of that. I think in the advertising, I like the idea of rate buy down, but that's look, you guys, you know, every project's different, but it seems like to me that the borrower would appreciate rate buy down right now, given the fact that we have 7% rate. So, hey, great discussion, you guys. Hey, our time is up. I don't want to keep everyone captive here longer than our allocated hour. But I do appreciate you joining coaching. I appreciate you going to our in-person meetings when they're there. We have a few coming up. Next week, we're in Tuhay in person and Wasatch back. On September 12th, we're back to in-person in all of our individual offices. For those who are in St. George, you'll see me tomorrow. I'll be in the office tomorrow. We've got a couple appointments there. Sandy, I look forward to seeing you. And Bob, I see you on my screen. Look forward to seeing you guys. And hey, let's go out there and find someone to help. Hey, because guys, they'd be lucky to have you, right? So be grateful for the challenges as well. It's what brings your value. You can't have a great hero unless you have a huge villain in the story, right? So let's go be the hero and help someone. Thanks, you guys.